shy. All right, stand right across from someone. All right, so we're going to have 45 seconds to a minute. You're going to read your questions to each other and then discuss what you think the answers are. Okay, and then we're going to shift. Go ahead and start now.
What's so great about Pari, according to Lady Kaplan What's so great about Pari, according to Lady Kaplan and What's so great about Pari?
He's like basically just talking about not great, but like very good looking dude. What is the difference? How movies are portrayed as people who I'd say he's just like just losing it. It's all fantasy, but Romeo thinks some actually can like as far as
Exactly. No, I didn't really. No, I didn't.
All right, nope, stop. Okay, stop. Don't shift. Nope. Switch back. All right, this is how it's going to work. Okay, Brittany, you can shoot down the middle. You're going to go down to this end. And you guys, this outer line, shift one to your right. So Brittany, come down here. You're going to take Peyton's place. Shift one to the right. All right, you're going to start all over again and talk to a new person. Ready? Don't show your card to them. I want you to actually read your question to them. Ready? Start.
What's so great about Pari? According to Lady Kaplan and
Why do you say over moving or portraying?
what is the difference
I don't know. I can't really answer your question.
Yes, we are. Mind your business. Talk to
Hey, guys, talk to each other. Not talk to each other. Your time's running out. All right, stop. All right, shift to your right one more time. Okay, Christian, you come down here. Okay, I think we've got the idea of how this works now. Go ahead and start now.
What's so great about Pari, according to Lady Kaplan and
Okay, so what's so great about this? Okay, can you quote any words, any lines per set? You can come up with them saying. What are your answers? You came up with those? You got it?
Do I answer this?
Oh my lord.
All right, stop. I think we did enough time for that one. All right, head back to your seats with your card. All right. Now we're going to share out the answers. So you have to let me know which card, which question you have. Okay? I've got a couple of them because I have 14 questions, but we may skip a couple here too. All right. So, question number 1. Who do Juliet's parents want Juliet to think about marrying? Who had that one? Got two people. Who had the question, actual question? Michelle?
Parents.
Parents, okay. Follow-up question to that. What's so great about Paris, according to Lady Capulet and the nurse? Who had that one? Me. Question? All right. What'd you come up with?
he's so handsome.
No, you're right, handsome, right? He's good looking. Okay, can anybody, Deshaun, did you hear that?
Yeah, he said he was very handsome and tall and a great person for.
I don't remember that he's tall.
I mean,
Does anybody remember?
Oh yeah, cause he has a like, he's well known and stuff. Cause like she's like at the same level like Juliet.
Okay, I don't, okay, in the movie maybe, right? What does Lady Capulet or the nurse say? Do you remember, can you quote the lines? Paris is
the flower of Verona.
Verona, good. Do you know the other line? He's also what?
He's no, I don't remember.
He's a man of wax.
He's a man of wax.
He's the model of the
I
man.
knew it was something about.
It's the mold, yeah, it was the mold.
The mold, right? We talked about how the sculptor makes the wax model first and then chips away and follows that. All right. What is Juliet's attitude towards Paris and marriage? Who had that one? Yeah.
She was confused about it because she never really thought about marriage and stuff like that.
And she's
And
13.
she hasn't talked to Paris at all. That's why Dad told her to talk with Paris at the party.
Yeah, she hasn't even met the guy yet, right? So she's not really thinking about marriage, and she's really doing it for her parents. Number 4, what is the difference between how Mercutio and Romeo viewed dreams? Sean.
Oh, you want me to get my input on it?
Yeah.
All right.
Or did you have that question?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, the difference is, he thinks.
Mercutio.
Mercutio thinks like fantasy or like dreams are like a fantasy and like just things made up in your head. But Romeo views dreams as like another chance or opportunity or something like to change it.
Okay, so yeah, so Mercutio uses words for dreams like inconstant as the wind, thinner than the substance of the air. You use the word fantasy. He also calls them vain fantasy, right? Romeo says that dreams could be true, right? So they have a very different way of looking at the same thing. All right, let's skip the next question. Number 6, at the last minute, why does Romeo say he's afraid to go to the Capulet party? Yeah.
Because he's gonna get murdered.
He didn't say murder. What did he say? Can you clarify that? Well, die. Yep. Christian, you want to add to that?
Yeah, because he said that going to that party, something was going to lead up to his death, right?
Okay. Rashawn, you want to add to?
He said about this party that I go to may lie my grave or something like that.
Okay, you're thinking of Juliet. We'll get to her in a second. Okay, so he said, I fear some consequence yet hanging in the stars may start this fearful date, which, beginning with tonight's revels party, will lead to my untimely death, right? So we already know that they're going to die before we start reading the play. So we're getting a little bit of hint here. So that leads to the next question. What Romeo says about his future is an example of what story plot element? Who had that? Okay, what is that? What do we call that? Foreshadowing, a hint or clue about the future, right? So it's foreshadowing about his death, that something will start at the party that leads to his untimely death. All right, what big change happens to Romeo at the Capulet party? Explain. All right, Brittany. What?
I don't know the answer.
You don't know what happens to Romeo at the Capulet party?
He's dead. Who he kissed the I don't know her name.
He does kiss someone. Okay, so we'll revisit this. Let's ask someone else. Anthony, what happens?
Is there a question?
Yeah.
Romeo stops losing love anymore.
All right, so he stops loving Rosaline. Did you get that, Brittany? What does he stop doing? Stops and starts loving who? Juliet. Okay, big change. Remember, Rosalind, he says Rosalind's the most beautiful woman that's ever walked under the sun since the beginning of time. Okay? Alright, so he dumps Rosalind. Not that she ever liked him to begin with. Number 9, explain what happens to Tybalt when he recognizes Romeo as a Montague at the party. Now, who had this one? Okay, Ruby.
He got mad.
You got mad, and what do you want to do?
He wanted to jump him.
Wanted to jump him. Wanted to start a fight, okay? You're right, and what happened? Why didn't he?
Because his uncle was like,
Yeah, his uncle's like, no way you're starting a fight at my party. Not gonna happen. Alright. Number 9. Or number 10, sorry. What do you think would be a possible consequence of Tybalt seeing Romeo at the Capulet party? Who had this one? Guys? Yeah. Peyton.
Tybalt was gonna kill Romeo?
Tybalt, let's not.
Oh.
Tybalt sounds like someone's little dog. Here, Tybalt, come here, boy. Tybalt. Okay, so what? Say that again.
Gonna, kill Romeo, like.
Okay, so he's out for vengeance, right? Out for blood. So we'll see what happens with that. Number 11. When Romeo and Juliet meet each other, they speak to each other using what kind of poetic form? I had that one, I think. Yes. Anybody tell me? Yeah.
Isn't like every other line rhymes or something?
Every other line rhymes, so it's a poem form. Yeah.
Was it Shakespeare?
Shakespearean what?
Shakespearean language?
Yes, but what's the poetic form? What's the form of the poem? Jennifer, you remember it?
Sonnet?
A sonnet. Good. It's a 14-line poem. So it's a Shakespearean version of the sonnet, the poem. All right. Romeo and Juliet first speak to each other using words like holy pilgrim, Batman, shrine, saint, sin, holy palmers, faith, prayer, devotion. What's unusual about these words? Anthony.
They're not really words that we would say to each other in a normal conversation.
You don't think teenagers would talk like that, even in Shakespeare's time?
Shakespeare's time, yeah, but in modern age.
Okay, so what do we use those words for? Where does this language come from? It's not the language of love between two teenagers. It's typically what? Associated with what? I mean, you're not going to grab some girl's hand, right, and say, if I profane this holy shrine, baby, right? So what do we use words like holy and shrine and prayer for? And religion, right? This is the language of religion, and Shakespeare flips it on its head and turns it into the language of teenage love. Very unusual. All right, number 13, at the end of Act 1, Juliet says, if he's married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed, meaning if he's married, I'd rather die than marry anyone else. This is another example of what? Who had that question? Did I have that question? No. Yes?
Foreshadow.
Foreshadowing. So another instance of foreshadowing. And finally, this is one I did have. What's the difference between a monologue and soliloquy? So I have that question, but can anybody tell me what's the difference? Soliloquy versus monologue. Has to do with the difference about who's hearing what's being said and what's actually being said. This is not just for Shakespearean plays. Any modern play will do this as well. I'll collect your cards where you think about it. What's the difference between monologue and soliloquy? I stump you? Monologue and soliloquy. All right. This is probably something we need to keep working on. A monologue is like a speech with the characters speaking to other characters. Other characters can hear them. They're speaking to characters. Soliloquy is the character speaking their thoughts. Even if there's someone on stage, Nobody else is hearing them. They're speaking to the audience so that we know the character's thoughts. See, that reveals to us their reactions, their motivations, what they're thinking about, so we can get inside their head. So soliloquy is for us, the audience, so we know what the character's thinking. Monologue's just a speech to other people on stage, to other characters. All right, go ahead and open your books to page 538. I want you guys to take some notes again, so at least 3 notes on the sheet I'm giving you, or throwing around. Page 538. You need your pencil. Okay. I'm going to start putting, I want you guys to follow along as we read. I'm going to start putting the Shakespearean English into modern English as we read. Most of it. I won't do all of it, okay? Alright, so I'm going to summarize scene 1. We'll talk about what happens in scene 1. Alright, so the party's over. Capulet party is over. Mercutio and Benvolio get separated from Romeo after the party. So this is not like the movie where they're all kind of leaving together. Okay? There's something that's very important that's different than the movie that we need to talk about. In the movie, it seems like Benvolio is understanding that Romeo's in love with this new girl. And then Benvolio even talks about, oh, maybe I should, start pursuing Rosaline. That doesn't happen in the text, okay? When the party's over, Mercutio and Benvolio have no clue that Romeo's in love with someone new, okay? It's very important that we keep that in mind, because it's going to end up that there's only 2 people that are going to know about Romeo and Juliet, and Benvolio is not one of them, and Mercutio is not one of them.
Nurse,
The nurse, and we have a character we haven't
the one
been introduced to yet, but you will for homework.
Yeah. I
Yes,
forgot his name though.
Friar Lawrence.
Yeah.
Okay, so they leave the party, they get separated, and Mercutio and Benvolio are talking. Remember, Benvolio's already tried to talk Romeo out of being interested in Rosaline. Okay, Mercutio, of course, knows by now about Rosaline as well. Okay, so we're not going to read this, but Mercutio starts making fun of Romeo as they're walking along, calling out for him, looking for him. Okay, because Mercutio doesn't think much of love. Okay, he reduces love to sexual desire. This is how Mercutio is. Okay, so he's making fun of Romeo, even though he thinks Romeo's in love with Rosaline. He's making fun of Romeo for being in love. And Romeo overhears this and comments on that. Okay? So I'm just going to read just what Benvolio says on page 539. So make sure you're on page 539 at the top, line 30. Benvolio says, "Come, he hath hidden himself among these trees to be consorted with the humorous night. Blind is his love, and best befits the dark." So again, Benvolio's thinking, look, he's still blindly in love with Rosaline. He's gone off somewhere to be depressed about Rosaline. Okay? And that takes us to scene 2, where we're in the Capulet's orchard. So Romeo's still around. He overhears Mercutio, but he's not going to respond because he doesn't want to be found. He's basically in the Capulet's backyard. Okay? So he comments on Mercutio. He jests at scars that never felt a wound. In other words, Mercutio's never been wounded by love, so he's just joking about it. He's making fun of me. And now we get a soliloquy. So soliloquy is what? Is what? The thoughts, his thoughts, yes. So he's This is a soliloquy, and I'll start putting this into modern English. Remember, soft means what? It's on the board. Wait, okay? But wait, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that you, her maid, remember maid is an unmarried young woman, are far more beautiful than she is. Be not her maid, since she is jealous. Her clothing is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady, oh, it is my love, oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye speaks as well. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in heaven, having some business, do invite her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. So he's saying, what if her eyes, imagining her eyes up in heaven here. What if her eyes were there in heaven, up in the sky? They in her head. Turn the page. The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight does a lamp, and her eyes in heaven, so if her eyes were up in heaven, would through the airy region stream so bright that the birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon that hand. Oh, if I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. Juliet, I me. Romeo, she speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for you are as glorious to this night being over my head as is the winged messenger of heaven. So an angel, unto the white upturned wandering clouds of mortals that fall back to gaze on him when he rides the lazy puffing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air. Juliet. O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Remember, we talked about this word last class. Wherefore means why. So this is not where are you, Romeo. This is why are you, Romeo? Why did I have to fall in love with a Montague? Okay. Deny your father and refuse your name, or if you will not, be sworn my love, so swear you'll be my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. Romeo, shall I hear more? Shall I speak at this? Juliet, it is but your name that is my enemy. You are yourself, though not a Montague. What's a Montague? It's not a hand, or a foot, or an arm, or a face, or any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. And now we have one of the most famous lines in the whole play that people know even if they've never read the play. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Let's stop here. What is Juliet, what's she mean here? What's she talking about? This is the difference between names and identity. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name, so we call it something else, would smell just as sweet. What's her point here? What's she mean? What's in a name? That which we call a rose, we call it by any other name, we call it something else, would smell just as sweet. What's her point about names versus identity? Names versus...
She'll still be in love even if he was Montague, or if he was, she would still be in love.
Why? So what does that have to do with his name? So tell me a little more about that. Or Peyton, go ahead.
His name doesn't matter.
His name doesn't matter. Why?
Because it's just a name.
It's just a name. It doesn't change who he is, right? We could call something anything we want, right? We have the window over there. I could say window. Or I can say the German word for it, die Fenster. Or the Italian word for it, la finestra. It doesn't matter. It's still a window, right? We understand what it is. It's a window. So she's saying it doesn't matter what we call things. It doesn't change what they are. So it doesn't matter what Romeo's called. It doesn't change who he is, right? Okay, very important line. And she kind of picks up that thought a little more. Okay, so she says, so Romeo would, if he wasn't called Romeo, would still retain, would still have the same perfections that are his, without that title. So Romeo, get rid of your name, and for your name which is no part of you, take all myself. Romeo, I take you at your word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. From now on, I will never be Romeo. Juliet, what man are you who's hiding in the night that stumbles on my counsel? Romeo, by a name I know not how to tell you who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to you. Had I written the word, I would tear it out. Notice this is the second time that Romeo refers to Juliet as what? What's the line say? He calls her what? This is the second. The saint. Twice now he's called her a saint. When they first met, and now again. Juliet, my ears have not yet drunk 100 words of thy tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. Are you not Romeo and a Montague? Neither, fair maid, if you dislike either one. What you need, Michelle? Okay, quickly. All right. Juliet, how did you get here? Tell me, and here's that word again, wherefore, why. So how did you get here and why? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place is death considering who you are. If any of my kinsmen find you here, what are kinsmen?
Guards.
No, not guards.
Like Tibbles.
Who else would we want to protect Juliet besides guards?
Parents.
Parents and cousins, family, siblings. So kinsmen here means relations, right? Family members. Okay, so it's dangerous because of them. Romeo. So Romeo gives a very lovey-dovey answer here. How did you get here? How did you, the walls are high. What does he say? With love's wings I flew over the walls. For stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do, love should do. Therefore, your kinsmen, your relatives, are no stop to me. Juliet, if they see you, they will murder you. Romeo, there lies more danger in your eyes than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, so, stand there and look cute. And I am protected against their enmity. Enmity means hostility. That would be a good word for your notes. Enmity means hostility or opposition. Turn the page. Yes.
That's a restroom.
Let me see how many passes you have. I don't even have you on my list yet, Christian, so you haven't used any passes. So yes, make sure that you sign out. Be quick. All right. So, Juliet, we're at the top of page 542. Is everybody there? I see you got time to write some notes. Okay, Juliet, I would not for the world that they saw you here. Romeo, I have night's cloak to hide me from their eyes. And if you love me, let them find me here. My life would be better ended by their hate than me postponing wanting to love you. Take the passes the wood pass there. There you go. Okay. Juliet, by whose direction did you find out this place? So Romeo has love GPS, and so he gives another kind of love answer. By love, that first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I gave him eyes. I am no pilot, yet were you as far as that vast shore, washed with the farthest sea, I should adventure, so I should go to that faraway shore, to get such merchandise as you. This is the late 17th century, so where do you think Shakespeare is thinking about is this farthest away sea, a different shore across the ocean? Where would be the farthest place that he might have in mind, away over the ocean and sea, away from Italy? That, if you're, what? The New World, where we're at, right? So like if you were all the way in the new world, Juliet, I would go there to be with you.